There's now news about the planned timetable for the Conservative Party leadership election, which will not take place now until November. So the new Conservative leader will not be in place until, I think, November the 2nd. And they will have a chance, the various candidates will have a chance to pitch themselves at the Conservative Party conference. And part of this, I understand, is to replenish the coffers. And part of it, I suspect, is to drive out the difficult right-wingers and to pull the party back to the centre. The main stream of the Conservative Party is aware of what's needed, even if the right wing still has control. And there are various things which are of significance at the moment because of this. One is the exposure of the real Rishi Sunak. And suddenly you see Rishi Sunak in the House of Commons and you think, what a charming, what a thoughtful individual, a funny man. And why didn't we see this when he was Prime Minister? He's actually emerging as somebody that you sort of like. And yet as Prime Minister, he was loathsome. Why? As Prime Minister, there doesn't seem to have been a single bone in his body that was his. Is this what happens when someone becomes Prime Minister? They get taken over by the spads, by the gang. I've looked at the spads a few times with Rishi Sunak, and I've pointed a finger in their direction and said, I don't think what's going on there is very good. One of the people who turns up again and again, in fact, he was a special advisor for almost every Prime Minister in the last Conservative government, is Sheridan Westlake. I actually have a feeling I know his family. He was a lad who went to Oxford, and he was a special advisor under multiple Conservative Prime Ministers. He's earned a reputation as a highly influential and knowledgeable political operator, often working behind the scenes to shape policy and strategy. He attended Oxford, where he was involved in student politics. He stood for the Conservatives at Oxford, a detail he's confirmed, while denying any involvement in election irregularities at Oxford University. He also denies ever being called Nick. His career spans several decades, starting with his role at the Conservative Party headquarters, and over the years he's worked closely with prominent figures such as Eric Pickles, serving as his advisor when Pickles was Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government. His meticulous attention to policy detail and his ability to navigate complex bureaucratic landscapes have been hallmarks of his career. He's been described as having an unfailingly polite but persistent style that sounds like his father, that effectively pushes civil servants and other officials to align with the government's agenda. His persistence is exemplified by a noted year-long disagreement over a single line of policy, which he ultimately won by sheer determination and detailed knowledge. He served in various capacities under 5 Prime Ministers: David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, and Rishi Sunak, and his roles have included advising on communities and local government for Eric Pickles, and strategic roles in Number 10. And despite his accomplishments, his actions have not been without controversy. There have been accusations and criticisms, particularly from political opponents, even within the Conservative Party, regarding his conduct in elections and his overall influence in the Conservative Party. However, he has consistently defended his actions, maintained his stance on various issues. For example, going all the way back, he has firmly denied any involvement in fiddling Oxford Union elections and breaching electoral laws in Guildford. His reputation among his peers is mixed, reflecting both admiration and criticism. He's been called a political legend by some of his unwavering by some of his unwavering supporters who talk of his commitment and effectiveness. At his leaving do for the Department of Communities and Local Government, Eric Pickles humorously remarked that working with Westlake was a pleasure, highlighting the high regard in which he is held by some senior politicians. But he's not the only one. He's not the only one at all. There are probably four others who are worthy of note. Liam Booth Smith, the Sunak's chief of staff, and a serious problem, really, pivotal in managing the day-to-day operations of Sunak's office and his role coordinating between different departments, ensuring that Sunak's policies were effectively communicated and implemented. Cass Horowitz, known as the digital wizard behind Sunak's online presence. Horowitz played a crucial role in shaping his public image. Nerissa Chesterfield, serving as his press advisor, responsible for managing his media affairs. And there were others. It was a close-knit group, including sort of old chums, the influence of other individuals like the former Chief Whips Mark Spencer and Gavin Williamson. I think his choice of Gavin Williamson as an advisor was misplaced. But there were criticisms regarding the over-reliance on digital and media strategists, which some argued detracted from substantive policy making. And figures like Cass Horowitz highlighted a significant shift towards image management, sometimes at the expense of deeper political strategy, but it was the image which was projected, which was the wrong image. And critics would argue that the Prime Minister's or the former Prime Minister's decisions were often overshadowed by the strategic imperatives set by his spads. The perception was exacerbated by the streamlined, sometimes skeletal nature of his advisory team compared to predecessors, which some saw as a sign both of efficiency and foolishness. What was needed from Sunak was more of the dynamic that was seen when he was Chancellor and now that he is leader of the opposition. And I think it's a lesson for all future Prime Ministers that they shouldn't be so tied up with their advisors that their own personality is crushed. And ideally, advisors are there to embellish, to enhance and develop the Prime Minister's personal skills rather than to squash and subvert. And I think it's a relief to see the real Rishi, and I'm sorry that we didn't see that earlier.